Hello, everyone. How is everyone doing today? I already see the person we're going to speak to today. I'm going to wait for someone to raise his hands once he's ready to come up on stage. In the meantime, I want to say hello to. Oh, there it already is. That was a quick one.
I was tempted just to hit decline just to mess with you a little bit.
Hello, son. How are you, my man?
I am good. How are you doing, David?
All gravy, all good, all good. Looking forward to this one. This has been, I believe, the third time.
Yeah.
Like I believe.
Yeah, I think it is. Third time? Yeah.
Third time. I believe it was the first one still as Titano, or was it already after?
I
the
think we had
switch?
first one as Titano, second was Switch, and now third is Switcher. The more switchy.
Switchy. Like new name announced. Switchy.
Yeah. Switchy.
Switchy
Yeah,
phase 2.
come check it out, guys. Our
Oh,
branding
awesome.
team has been working on this for months,
Or just as a joke because switch back, right? And then after
Yeah.
that you get Titano.
We're actually going
Gotcha,
back to
guys.
Titano now. Reversing the
Just,
name, changing it up a little bit.
just to troll everyone.
Yeah. Oh God.
Is it just gonna be you today, right?
I think it's gonna be just myself. I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna pull Mike up here and force him to come up and chat with me because he might have more technical knowledge of anything perpetual exchange related. But that's really up to him if he wants me to sacrifice him into the slaughter.
There we go. Let's see if he's saying something, raising his hand or something. But I currently see him typing, but not raising his hand. So I think that's a no.
Oh, he says happy
Oh,
and
happy
willing.
Yeah. So okay,
He's gonna
then
kill me.
sure.
He's gonna kill me.
Then let's bring him up. I mean, he said he was happy. Oh, there he is.
He said he was
Hello,
happy.
Mike.
Congratulations, Mike. I forced you up here with me.
Hey guys, how you doing?
All good. Nice. I believe we haven't spoken before. So
Yeah,
nice to hear
we
your
have not
voice.
formally met on voice. Yeah, we've met in chat, but not on voice. So nice to meet y'all, and happy to be here.
Peer pressure, right? Peer pressure.
You know,
Them.
Summit's really good at that, but I've learned to be able to handle it well, so should be all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just like, hey, guess what, Mike? Congratulations, you're on this one now. One of these days, I'm gonna get John up here, though. It's kind of a running joke in our fireside chats because he has PTSD from hosting the first chat. So one of these days, I'm gonna get him up here. He's gonna hate me for it, but I'm gonna do it.
We can bring him up, but we can't force him to unmute the mic. That's the only problem.
I just love it that in every project around around DeFi, there's always this one guy that just doesn't want to speak, right? It's
Yeah.
always the case. And I just love it. It's a universal thing, and I think it's quite charming that there's always this guy, and everyone wants to hear him speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna
Like a little
magically
myth.
change something. The price is gonna go up 600%. It's just.
Ooh, imagine, yeah, that's a good that might be a good a tactic to get him up on stage. Alrighty, Mad Hatter, when I'm good to go when you are good to go.
I'm good to go.
Perfect. Let me just check if everything is here. I see the two teddy bears recording. Awesome. Thank you all for coming today. Welcome to The Pillars. We are a community-led space aimed at supporting protocols and educating our investors through intelligent, meaningful conversation. Here we ask the tough questions you all want answered. Now, let me introduce to you, as we already have chatted a bit pre-intro, Summit and DT Mike D. Mike from Switch. We had Switch on already for this is the third time now. First time was for as Titano still, before they switched to Switch. And now they are back to talk to us about their phase 2 of the protocol, which I am excited about to hear, because there's a lot of, basically the token is going to change 180, if you want to put it that way. So if you know about Titano, if you know about Swych, everything's going to change. No, there's a lot, like with the phase 2 that is coming. They're moving to be stop the inflation, and then also the taxes are going to be killed. So those are going to be great changes. And I know that the boys are going to go into that thoroughly. I'm just here to let you know, we have also $75 giveaway that's going to happen at some point during the CE, of course, as you know. I encourage everyone, please ask questions. That's also necessary to be eligible and participate, of course. And yeah, the community questions channel is open, so everyone, please go ham. And I hope you guys enjoy, and I'm off the stage. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, David. Gentlemen, nice to have you in. As David said, it's our third time. But Summit, it's the first time that you will be sitting front and center, I believe.
I know, yeah. I'm in the hot seat now.
Yes, you
You
are.
get me all to yourself, and you get to pull all the information out of me.
I get to try. Apparently, it's like getting blood from a stone. So this is going to be an interesting back and forth. Mike, nice to have you here too.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. I'm in a little bit cooler seat, so Summit's in the hotter one.
or so we're having you think for now. Don't worry. I'm going to turn my attentions on you at some point.
Yeah, that's
Gentlemen,
whatever. Happy to be here.
there's going to be a ton of people from Swych that are in the audience listening. There's also going to be some people here that don't necessarily know what you guys are about, or might not necessarily know what phase 2 of what you're about is. So could you give us a brief bird's eye overview of both what it is that you're doing now, and then how that transition is going to happen and what it means for Swych?
Yeah, I think to kind of go even before into that, it's nice to show where we were before and where we are now as well. You know, and,
Sure,
kind of
perfect.
how we've got this point here. So many people who don't know of Swych might have heard of Titano. Didn't know that we did the Swych. But we started off as Titano. You know, the biggest probably auto rebasing token at the time. You know, we saw it all over the world. Saw everything go crazy for it, hitting high market caps. You know, and we changed, we altered a little bit. There was a lot of adjustments that I think needed to happen in the space. We saw some things happen in the overall markets. We saw, you know, inflationary issues. We just saw, you know, a different type of way we want investors to earn from. And so we wanted to pivot and turn it into Swych, you know, switch things around a little bit here, which really came in to be a protocol more centered around not necessarily always price, but an ecosystem-based project. You know, what type of tools, what type of utilities can we create? And it's been kind of this journey of like finding out what is that sweet spot, you know, to bring everybody yield, to bring investors value, to still have fun in the crypto space. You know, I think a lot of that is, you know, creating, whether it be gamification elements, whether it be exchanges, perpetual exchanges, lottery systems, things like that. And so we you know, played with all of those types of things. We eventually kind of settled on this route that we wanted to go with, a perpetual exchange route. And it's kind of the pathway that we're on right now. And with this perpetual exchange that we're looking to create and go forward, we really want to make it as a passive income source to people for the crypto space. You know, people trade. Everybody trades on the crypto space. It's how it works. You know, you buy, you sell, you short, you long, and we want to make a platform that rewards people in real yield. And by real yield, we mean, you know, Tether, BNB, Ethereum, things like that, where you're not worried all the time with those fluctuations in price. So you're getting that passive income for people just trading, for owning a stake of a little bit on Swych. While we've been getting this journey and developing these things and developing these tools, we've had, you know, different levels of token restrictions, different things that we've done to help, you know, combat inflation as we let the, you know, accumulation phases go. You know, people may be familiar, if you're in the Swych protocol, with that ATB system and kind of how that works to prevent huge whale dumps that can happen all the time. But we're very close to getting rid of that. We're getting to that point where all of that gets removed. It turns into a standard BEP20 token, and it starts earning those passive incomes, those real yields. And it's kind of where we're at right now. We're getting ready to talk about this stuff, the fun stuff. Moving finally into this phase. A long time coming, I will say.
Good intro. Thank you very much. One of the first questions that comes up is, what do you think, or what do you attribute you guys still being here to? Is there any one or two things that you can really point your finger at and say, this is the reason why, even through all the trials and tribulations that we had, we're still staying the course and still giving you guys the promises that we're going to deliver?
I think it's actually a pretty easy answer. That's what's the community. Honest to God, it is the community. I think that there are a lot of projects out there that have phenomenal ideas, right? You see it all companies just in general, they have phenomenal ideas, but they don't have the support from people behind them. And the Titano community that's, now the Swych community is really supportive, really loyal. And we see that. I see that. Before I even became part of this team, I was a community member. And it was the excitement I had for this project, for the people around me who were in this project, that made me want to make this project bigger than it ever could get to. And I think that's probably the biggest factor for Swych. I still see tons and tons of people come in and go on our Discord channel, even on our Telegram, Twitter, stuff like that, and it's still a huge presence, which you just don't see too much in the DeFi space and in crypto in general right now. There's a lot of projects that have gotten, swallowed up, that have been chewed up and spit out. It's just this bear market has been brutal. And I don't say that, we haven't had ups and downs. There's a lot of pivoting, a lot of changes, a lot of delays that happen. But through all of it, this community really has backed us, has supported us, given us the feedback, given us the energy and motivation to keep moving things forward.
Great, and I'm glad that you can talk so well about your community. I mean, no project is going to be here without a very solid community sitting behind them. And certainly the fact that you guys still have that core base that supports what it is that you're doing is great. Is there an element that perhaps, and we'll get into kind of the inflation side of things first and why you're moving away from that, but is there an element that there are some people that perhaps have to support you because they feel like they've put in enough or so much that they now need to wait until you guys do finally release something that's going to work for them, so that they can either start making that passive income or slowly exiting the platform?
Oh, of course. I wouldn't deny that at all. I would say that, when people invest in anything, they're always looking for a return. You would have to be naive to think that people invest just for the sake of, I'll throw it at here because I like these guys. Everybody wants to get a return out of their investment. No doubt on that. And I think that, people who have invested in Swych as a whole are definitely looking to see the promises that we've spoken about come to fruition, and whether that be they want to see the token price go up, or whether that be they want to see the passive income come up. It's up to them on which one they want to see more, but it's gonna be there. And I think you're gonna have that no matter where you invest. There's always going to be those people who just want to see that investment go up so they can take their money out too. I'm never one to tell anybody to do something with their money and not to do something with their money. It's your own financial choice. It's your own investment. I never want people to FOMO in. I never want people to think that, sell out now while the price is at XYZ. Please always choose what you want to do. But I think that for the vast majority, of people here, there's a good group of people who are here because they want to see what we've talked about come in, build out, create that income. But I also know that there's a good amount of people here that want to make that money back, and I don't blame them in the slightest. And I think we all want that. I want to be able to get that money and be able to, I just got engaged, pay for a wedding, this is not cheap. So being able to get some money on the side to pay for a wedding or pay for those medical bills and things like that. And so I fully and 100% understand that and know that, I think as a project as a whole, we want that. We want everybody here to see huge gains come out of it. We can never guarantee it, but we can never say that, stick with the project, don't sell, do what's best for you. And I think that's what we're trying our very hardest here. The founders as well are really looking to create elements in the project that are both, not hurting everything, not pivoting too hard on certain ways, but also, benefiting the right ways. And I love that the community gives us feedback on everything that we do, whether it be, this is a great idea, this is a terrible idea, being able to have that forum to discuss things in that respectful manner. And yeah, I mean, you're always going to get the people who come into channels and they're not happy no matter what you say. They're just here to sling some insults and walk out the front door. It's always going to happen. Welcome to the space.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's one of those things that you have to navigate, and I'm glad you brought the founders up. Firstly, congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you.
That's always a positive. So yeah, well done on that. The founders and yourselves is, how is that? How is it navigating that for you guys? Because, on the one hand, you've got the founders that sit in the background who appear to have autonomy over everything that's happening, the decision making, the money, whatever it might be. And then you've got you guys that are the front facing, and the front facing people are always the messengers, and they're always the ones that get shot first. And that must be very difficult. Is there a reason the founders are so reluctant to come forward and speak? Will we ever get a conversation with them? Can we ever get them to jump into a space, answer questions, face the community and some of the harder questions that some people do have? Because I think it's important that it doesn't, to me, it feels almost like it's created a small divide now between the people that are really the diehard, the core investors and supporters, and then those that are watching it unfold and thinking, if these guys came forward and made a real statement in themselves, that might make all the difference for us. Yet, for the most part, unless you guys are speaking, they remain quite silent.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you 100% on that. And I think it's a conversation that, we've had plenty of times, not with, between you and I, but just as a community as a whole. I've heard it, countless amount of times on there. I think it's, on one side of things, and I'll kind of go through this question a few different ways. On one side of things, the founders are not fully native English speaking. A lot of their communication, they speak English. It's not to say they don't. It's just that, holding a conversation over like AMAs and things like that can be a little bit more difficult when you don't have that instant translation or that instant way of being able to know what a person means. So there's always going to be that element of just language barrier that happens natively right then and there. Now that's not to say, hey, that prevents them from coming up and jumping on a call or answering a few questions. It's just something that, is a little bit more difficult for them to come up on their own. I would love to, to get one of them up on here, maybe tag team some hard hitting questions together. But I think part of it as well is, when it comes to a lot of the communication, a lot of the talking, things like that, when we look at a team, everybody has the areas of responsibility. I look at like a company or a business, and myself, Mike, Wayne, Jean, we're kind of like the front end guys, and we really do our best to relay information, take pulses, share things out, kind of be the spokespeople. I guess I would say I'm probably more of the AMA guy or the chat guy for Swych, when it comes to things like that. But you're right.
To interject for a second, I'd go one further and say you're the main presence. I mean, I understand language barriers. I've lived abroad. I speak another language. I get it. I get communicating in another language can be hard. But being present is also paramount. And I think what's really fascinating about this particular project, and as we get into it, I'm curious to, kind of dig deeper into this, is you guys are really what Swych is. It's all about you guys. Yet there is this kind of niggling element where there's someone else that perhaps makes those decisions. So while I completely stand by what you say in terms of the language, and I get it, of course, it is also one of those things that just a larger presence, just in general, I think would be one of those things that I think, the community would really rally behind. And if it happened, then I think this particular project would suddenly see a massive boom. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I wouldn't disagree in the slightest. I would say that I think there's something special about getting, like, you know how we joked at the very beginning of this chat before it even started going live about, you know, just getting that one person who never talks into the hot seat. You know, it's little things like that that can sometimes just cause a spark. You know, I'm not one to disagree with that in the slightest. What I will say is this. Even if you don't see a chat or if you don't see them on a call, they are very much listening and they are very much watching everything. And when things happen, when changes happen, they very much do have, you know, the community in mind when those types of things do happen, when things get made and things get created. A lot of the reason why this project still exists is because of this community. They don't, you know, they could have easily just said, we're done. We're, you know, rolling up the carpet and we're out of here, you know? And every single day when I speak to them, it's always, all right, well, we got to do this. This is what would be better for the community. Let's change this to this, or let's alter this to this. And I think, you know, part of the reason that they're so careful to talk in the chats and say things is they don't want to disappoint. You know, they want to make sure that they have everything ready to go. They want to put on their A games. They want to be set and just don't want to disappoint the community. And so they're behind the scenes, planning, building, doing everything they possibly can, and then relaying that information out as fast as they can as well. And you know, I was speaking with Rob the other day, and I said to him, I'm like, hey, when am I going to get you forced up onto one of these fireside chats? And he's like, all right. He's like, you know what? As we get closer to things, he's like, you might be able to get me up on one of these. So I'm holding him to that. I'm holding, you know, might means a lot of things to me. All right. Might means a lot of things to me. But I think one thing that can be much easier, and I think a presence you will see more now, especially with all of these things coming and launching, is just more presence in the chats. I think that's something that you'll see just in general, is a more presence in the chats, more typing, more announcements, more things like that. I love writing. I love posting announcements. But man, nothing gets me more excited than seeing something come from Julius, Rob, or Marty when I hit that channel. You know, it's just like a special moment. And I know that they are very much interested in doing that. And now that this phase of, like, you know, planning and constantly behind the scenes developing type of stuff is coming to a close, we can focus a lot more on getting them engaged in the community and getting them a part of everything a little bit deeper, and finally forcing them. If I force, I'm going to say this, if Jean's listening, if I can force one of the founders on here, Jean, you're definitely coming up on a fireside chat.
I mean, you know, I hear what you're saying, and I'm seeing some of the comments, and of course, you know, the CEO isn't always going to be present for things, and that's why you have people that you bring in to help, you know, translate what you're, you know, effectively saying. They might not necessarily be able to as effectively as they want to. I do hope as you guys near closer, they do start to come out and speak more. And if they are listening, then my feedback would be do better in that respect, because I think you do owe it to the community, and they owe it to you as a team, because you guys have had to face some real difficult questions and conversations surrounding the transition that you're talking about and some of the delays that have occurred. And, you know, having to answer those time and time again, and I'm sure you're already going to be rolling your eyes at some of the questions I have, because they inevitably are going to be centered around those points. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about where you guys are coming from and where it is that you're going to.
Yeah. So you want me to just dive in, or is there more?
Absolutely. No, I'll if I'm going to go for more, I'll draw you back. But no, dive in. Absolutely. Just please explain. You know what you guys are doing. Is the inflationary or the distribution phase right now? You know, I think it's important for people to understand that inflationary doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing if you're trying to distribute tokens. That said, you've maybe been distributing for slightly longer than you anticipated. So talk to me a little bit about that, maybe why some of the delays have happened, and then we'll get into where it's going to.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess just to top it off now, we do have, firstly, our transition is going to be starting to happen in early December, you know, when we talk about these things here. Now, as of right now, you know, I think there's no arguing, no debate. You know, we've been in phase 1 for a considerable amount of time. You know, I know when we came on this call and we were talking about Switch, we were talking about the timelines of phase 2. And we missed those timelines. There's no doubting. Accountability wise, take ownership on that. But I think when we look at the reasons why we pushed it back and why those things were adjusted, it was for a few different things, and one of which was, we looked at overall market trends. We looked at kind of the distribution as a whole. How is the token looking at this current time? We looked at the token price. We looked at the development status of the Perpetual exchange, things we wanted to add, things we wanted to take away, lots of stuff like that. Because going into phase 2, and we're looking about that, we're talking about that now. That's removing a lot of the things that, for lack of better words, protect investors at the moment. Protect the people who are staking, who are holding. Okay, prevents people from just dumping all those tokens, because we are in an inflationary period. We are in a period where you are making more tokens by staking your tokens, which means people can just go ahead and sell those tokens. So those ATB restrictions are in play, to stop those just mega dumps, from happening. And we've seen it everywhere. You see it in pretty much all of DeFi, okay? And it's just going to happen. There's no way around it. The way we kind of designed it was to mitigate a lot of it, and in hopes of people who wanted to take money out, they would passively take it, and rather than just, boom, all at once type of thing. They would just kind of passively take out money if they needed to. But, as time goes on, the phase gets extended, some people are like, all right, I just want to get my money out, and it's fully understandable. So now we're getting into this transitionary period where no more will this ATB be here. Okay, and one of the biggest things that we want to give as that option, rather than just selling your tokens, is a real yield percentage, right? If you're going to hold on to Swych tokens, okay, instead of selling them out, what is your benefit going to be from that? So it's really important that we create a utility that, brings in value for investors, not just, it's going to give a little spike and we'll see a little boost here, or, we'll do some buyback burns and that'll give us a little money and hold us over for a couple weeks and things like that. So we want to create a real utility that's constantly bringing in money. And although decentralized exchanges are great with trading fees, that requires a lot. You got to put liquidity pools on there. Sometimes you have to have other people put liquidity pools on. But what's really great is perpetual exchanges. They flourish, okay, in, a bear market or a bull market, because you can short, you can long, you can make money either way, and those fees are adding up regardless on that, okay? And those fees, okay, are then being paid out to investors, to shareholders, I guess you could say, And I think that we have to get to that point where we know, all right, is the yield that we'll be generating from this, this one utility going to help out significantly? And what other things do we need to create to, add more value? And so we have the Perpetual exchange. We're also adjusting some things with the lottery. And it's going to, we're going to take a little bit of time to get these developments out, Perpetual exchange and lottery, to see what those yields are going to bring. And then we're going to transition it into phase 2 right after that. So December 4th, we will see the Perpetual exchange go live. We're going to take a little time to start gathering some of those yields and see where we sit with accrued fees, and then what the interest rates would be is for people who would be staking. And for example, we would take whatever's currently in the staking pool right now as kind of our mathematical formula to see what the APRs and APYs would be, And so
your ATB isn't switching off at the same time as you release the DEX, right?
Correct. It is not switching off at the same exact time. It'll be a little bit after, as we kind of see where these fees get accumulated, and then it'll phase off kind of into that there.
I will talk about the fees in 2 seconds, but is it okay? So you're alluding to it will phase off rather than it just being a cold turkey off switch?
So that's the thing. And then we've kind of gone back and forth and talked about maybe a gradual kind of move into it, where it's, hey, if we have 2 and 20% ATB, maybe it'll be then 5 and 50, and then 10 and 80, and then boom, off. Something like that. or it's just going to be, it could be cold turkey. It just depends on what we see as far as a utility buildup and accrued fees. So if we launch Perpetual Exchange and we see that hey, there is a good chunk of cash flowing in here that could be used to, do a buyback burn, inject into liquidity, everything's good. Cold turkey, just cut it, let it go through. But if it's something that we have to gradually increase, we have other plans as well to do like a nice gradual increase. So that way it doesn't impact as, people who want to stay around, but it also lets people, finally go through and take out all of their tokens if they want to.
And you mentioned the buyback and burns. I recall during the last CEE that we discussed that, actually, these buyback and burns. Did they continue since the last time we spoke all the way through? Did they stop? Did they make the dent that was anticipated from both the team and the community standpoint?
Yeah, I think they made a decent dent initially. The problem was that people wanted the countdown clock. Countdown clock wasn't good. I don't know if you remember that, or if you ever saw that. Yeah. And it was the exact opposite of what we ever wanted, was that countdown clock. And it was just, hey, you count down, 0, cool, buyback happened, and sell and rinse, repeat cycle,
Right.
And there were, a couple $100,000 that were just constantly going into those buyback burns. And it eventually came to a point where it was just being timed so much. People were watching that wallet so much that it was more negative. It was instead of doing a buyback burn, it was just a burn. It was just burning money, though. It wasn't burning tokens. It was just burning money, to the point where it's like, okay, you know what? Let's save those funds for when we switch off the inflation and then do a nice chunk after that. Take some money, put it out of tokens that have a fixed supply now, and just nuke it out from there. And so those funds kind of went to the side, being held off there, so that when we get into this no more, inflationary phase, doing those buyback burns are significantly more impactful because, now you're not having that constant inflation that goes along with it.
So, okay, the money was accumulated and has been put to one side for buybacks, but then you do have obviously this added pressure now of an extended period of minting tokens. So, that in itself, doesn't that almost balance itself out? Doesn't that create an added bit of pressure for the team to now figure out, well, how can we really offset against people that have accumulated far more? And as we're seeing at the moment, unfortunately, it is the way it is with people selling. You guys have wallets at the moment that I can see that, every 10 days, like clockwork, everybody's getting frustrated because they're releasing a large amount of tokens. I know you say you're going to be looking at how much is coming in from the DEX. Does it place an enormous pressure on you guys to now figure out a way to really sell the DEX first and foremost before you start implementing anything else, to make sure you've got enough funds coming in so that the token doesn't just shoot straight down as and when the ATB is switched off?
I think that while we have accumulated funds, and that's something that we 100% look at, one thing that's always forgotten is the absolute huge war chest that we have on the side as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a massively sized treasury that has been doing great. We actually farmed out some of it, switched some of it to Bitcoin recently. And it's been making some passive income on there even more. And so when we look at, these transitionary phases and things like that, we definitely have the funds to move things around, inject more in, put more, and potentially boost up some of those APYs a little bit, and hold things over as we get some of that stuff figured out. So I wouldn't say that we're banking on just one thing, right? I wouldn't say we're just banking on, let's see where the fees come from. But it is something that we want to make sure is there. You don't want to burn through all of your capital if you know you have no income. It's like it just wouldn't make sense to do something like that. It's like having a job and taking all your money out of savings, and then you lost your job and now you don't know what to do anymore. You have to make sure that the money's flowing back in. And I've seen a lot of projects do that where they look at, well, we got to make sure that the token price looks good, or we got to make sure this looks good. And so they're like, let's toss 500K at it. All right, cool. Well, we got 7 million left still. So let's toss another 500K at it. All right, cool. And now they're down to 6 million, and they just keep tossing money at things like that. And then they're like, well, none of the income's coming in, so I don't know where we're getting the money back from. So the reason I bring that up though is because, we are very much looking at how many fees can be coming into the project so that we can sustain everything. And so as a business model, we're bringing money in, but we also have a good amount of money put to the side in the case that, let's say that fees, aren't accumulating as much as we want, but we still want people to benefit. We don't want to see that price go, to the floor on things like this. And when I've talked with the founders and stuff like that, and we've come to those like backup decisions, we definitely have the funds necessary to go ahead and be like, hey, all right, if we need to, let's boost up, let's buy back some of those tokens, burn them out, and inject in the LP and stabilize the pool a little bit after we get rid of these ATBs or we start to see these sell-offs happen. But we also don't want to just frivolously dump money in, dump money out, things like that. We recently just saw a price go from 0.003 to a cent, and now we're coming back to 0.0065. And so it's not that it's just constantly going down, it's fluctuating. It's going up, it's going down, it's moving a little bit in the middle. And even with sell-offs and things like that, we're still seeing that value kind of go up and down. It's not just a straight arrow down, which is good. But it's also something that if we're going to be putting money into it, we want to make sure that it's being put at the right time. Right now when we're looking at December 4th rolling around, Perpetual exchange, things like that. And you talked about marketing and things like talks like these, advertisements going on. We're actually in talk right now of getting a huge email list going out to existing traders and things like that. And things like that, approaching those areas there. We're really saving our big guns for that time frame. We don't want to use our big guns right now. We want to use our big guns when things really start kicking into action. So marketing wise, yeah, it's going to be something big. We want to make sure that we get the name out there. We're partnering with not so much always just crypto groups, but traders in general, right? One area that is opening up a little bit more is a lot of these perpetual exchanges are changing the way they operate. They're changing where they operate, even if they're decentralized. And so it opens the door to, hey, people are moving things around now because the exchange they used to use is not accessible anymore. Or maybe they're just like, we're closing the doors on certain things. And so they're looking for a new place to call home. And that's the perfect time to jump in. That's the perfect time to start getting this information out, get access to those people who want to, start trading decentralized wise. The funds are never, you're never putting it on a centralized exchange. Those are yours, especially in this market now where centralized exchanges are collapsing left and right and everything's in mayhem on all that type of stuff. So, it's a good point.
Sorry to interject for a second.
Yeah, no.
Your war chest, how much is it? What are you sitting on? How much are people looking at and saying that's what we are going to, as a project, have to play with? That's how much the community can get excited by.
Oh, that's a good question. Mike, I think more numbers on that. I want to say it's in the 9-ish millions.
Yeah, as far as total assets, it's right around 10 million. Probably a little bit more than that, especially since the BTC farming and the recent moves with BTC over the last couple of weeks. So I'd say it's right around there.
Okay,
that can be used for all the different things we have.
Okay, is it that's going to be obviously sitting there to protect the project? Have you guys discussed how much will absolutely be put towards from the beginning towards this marketing push, this marketing effort? I mean, as we know, it's a highly competitive market at the moment. Perpetual DEXs and exchanges are coming out left, right, and center. People are always wanting to build something like that because that can be where the money is. How much will you put towards making sure that you guys have the shine that another DEX might not necessarily have that's come before you?
Yeah, I think as far as like setting a number, it's difficult to say. We have a lot of playroom, okay, but it's also making sure that there's not necessarily like a hey, we're gonna buy this for $200,000 type of thing. Things are always going to fluctuate depending on what you want to target and what you want access to, right? So.
Right.
You can contact influencers, but in this space nowadays, influencers have been having a rough time. A lot of people are under fire. for, financial advising and stuff like that, or being accused of that. Okay. A lot of the bigger crypto YouTubers that existed 2 years ago or 1 year ago even have ceased to comment on a lot of that content, so it's really kind of looking to target where are the areas that are bigger right now. And a lot of that is, of course, social media is always going to be one. Okay. Targeting a lot of the existing like exchanges. So trying to get into contact with some of those mailing lists or advertising and things like that. And those are going to fluctuate. You're talking maybe $5, $10, $20, $30,000 for things like that. Okay. And I think it's safe to say that we've allocated, hundreds of thousands towards, marketing going forward. As far as how much is in action or how much will be, seen in the first, week or so is going to be dependent on where we put that money. Is it going to be videos? Is it going to be promoted content on social media, things like that? Okay.
Right.
And how that impact is going to have is
listings?
What was that?
Centralized exchange listings?
Yeah, we can definitely look into that. That's something we talked about, but Mike, I know you're really good with centralized exchanges, and he put this in good words before with the benefits of listing on a centralized exchange versus the negatives. And it's just something that we've talked back and forth. And I'm just going to push him into the spotlight. If that's cool with you, Mad Hatter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right, Mike,
Yeah.
you and I, let's go for it.
Yeah, for sure. So, in my opinion, and I think when it comes to centralized exchanges, there's pros and cons when it comes down to it, right? So, the way I always look at it is you're looking at exposure, right? But when it comes to exposure, you've got positive exposure and negative exposure. Listing a token on a centralized exchange opens you up to a lot of people, but it also opens you up to a lot of people who have no idea what your token does, what the utility behind it is, what the project does. And a lot of times when they're put on centralized exchanges, they're most often traded. And what can happen, when a token's listed on a centralized exchange, as well as a decentralized exchange, you end up having a arbitrage opportunity. So depending where that token's traded on the centralized exchange, it can in turn cause the price to be drugged down on the decentralized exchange by people arbitraging the token, buying it cheaper on the centralized exchange and selling it on the decentralized exchange. So you run those risks, right? So those pros and cons have to be really weighed. And you've got to look at, as providing liquidity on this centralized exchange, using our funds to do that, is it really worth what we can get back from it, on a positive standpoint?
Right. No, I fully understand that. One of the things that again, that comes into my mind when I hear you guys talk on it is how passionate you are, obviously, first and foremost. Summit speaks incredibly passionately. I can hear you're also passionate, and I see how much you type. You guys obviously very much care for this project. That I don't think is ever going to be up for question. I just wonder if at times there is a sense of uncertainty that creeps in because you guys yourselves are uncertain with what it is that the developers are going to be able to accomplish in the background within the time frame that they say they might. And that's where we get to the delays of things, and hopefully the 4th of December is set in stone. But at this point, you're going to have a lot of your community members and investors who might be slightly weary and beaten down by the amount of delays that have come before this particular point. How excited should they be getting about the 4th of December? How set in stone is that? And do you guys, and if they are listening, I hope they are, do the devs and the people that sit behind you guys, do they understand that if there is yet another delay, that this is now going to start to erode away at investor confidence, which just makes your lives harder, which actually has the only effect it's going to have is that you're going to have to spend more money to try and get marketing up and get more eyes on what you're doing.
Well, Mad Hatter, to first start off here, I don't want to be lynched. so, when we talk with the guys, when I talk with them back and forth, I even said, before I give a date, how confident are we on December 4th, right? I said, I don't want to go out here and get lynched. And so They were like December 4th. And, we went back and forth, and we were actually going to go with an earlier date. And so we chose it to go out slightly longer for two reasons. One was just to gather additional time just in case for the unknown, right? And the other was to a lot of our backtracking here a little bit as well. We actually brought on some external devs as well who have now actually become internal devs in the past couple months, and they have been phenomenal. Okay, they have been like really, really, really great. So part of the reason why we've actually started to see significant more movement is our team is really starting to mesh a little bit more now, and our team is really taking that in action and pushing things forward. So, when we talked with them and they were like, hey, yeah, let's do, December 4th, it gives us a full, 5-day, work week type of style. Okay. In case anything goes wrong, we're all available on things like that. Because I mean, everybody's got a life. Take a Saturday off, take a Sunday off, take a Tuesday or a Monday, right? Everybody has something.
Sunday off.
You're not? Oh my gosh. But at the end of the day, I think that goes for everybody. Everybody should have time outside to live a life. We shouldn't all be workhorsing nonstop and to the point where we're dropping dead, and
Right.
No matter what day of the week you make that, just take one, right? And I think when we look at that, they were like, let's just make sure we're all available 100% of the time. So if anything goes wrong, we are here the full time, 24/7 for this time period. And they were like, okay, let's start it off on a Monday and let's make sure every single person is available going through the rest of the week. And so we came to that conclusion, agreed on all of it, went from there. And I think that when we set that December 4th timeframe, right, there was this sense of absolute excitement. And then there's also that little voice in the back of your head that's like, but what if, like you like how you said, that eroding, that scaredness, that nervousness. And that's not to say that I don't have faith. It's not to say that it won't happen. But even if it, it does go, it goes through on, December 4th with no hitch, you're always worried. It's your baby. It's your baby that's coming out, and you want to make sure it's looking good and that everything works good. And so, when you see this culmination of everything, all this time that's gone into this perpetual exchange, all this work that's gone into it, its development here, and it's finally being released, there's that huge excitement that comes behind of it, but there's also that nervousness, that scared, that are people going to like it? Are people going to use it? And that's always going to happen no matter what you come out with, what you develop, what you bring to the platform. Am I going to do good on this AMA? Am I going to talk okay on here? Things like that, right? And so, I think the team very much knows that when we put this date out, we're being held to this date. And they understand the repercussions that happen if that date gets pushed back. So, I've told them, and they are well aware, and they're like, Summit, we don't want you to get lynched, and we're going to make sure it happens on December 4th. And so I'm looking forward to December 4th. I'm looking forward to getting that perpetual exchange out and to finally kick things really into motion here. Because I think it's really it's gonna set the tone, it's gonna set the foundation, open the doors, and really get us to where we wanted to be from day one.
Good. Will you be slow releasing any kind of information, any kind of images, perhaps things that people can see and get excited about? I think when people start to see things, pieces of information slow released, especially as you've only now got, 2 weeks today?
Yes.
I
information is going to come out.
Great.
And,
do you have any information for us today?
Oh, like what type of information you trying to get out of me, huh?
I mean, I'm just asking. It's just you and I chatting right now. There's no one else listening. What you got?
All right. Okay. Man, this is where I have to make sure that the shock collar is really set to low over here real quick. I think one thing that a lot of people are looking at in all seriousness is fees, right? People are looking at fees in general and how the rewards look like and how they're going to benefit from everything. And one of the biggest things when we look at Switch as a whole is when you're an investor in Switch, okay, you're not just going to be accumulating fees from only the perpetual exchange. The rewards and real yield will not come from just that source. What I could say is that if you hold Swych, you will benefit from everything that we come out with. And the fee-wise, when it starts to really add up and you start to add in the fees from all of the different areas from everything that we have coming out, the percentages start to get really high.
Right. Okay.
Um,
So, I mean, that's a good thing because at the moment you have nothing, and I am going to press you on that in a second.
Yeah.
At the moment, there's no floor price, right? You
Right.
guys are going to need to start driving fees in order to protect the price of the token itself, which is what the money was doing previous. So now, people are going to be excited to hear, well, that money is going to be put to good use to drive traffic through. The perpetual exchange. Now you're saying that the fees are going to go up as you release things. There must be a couple of things that you guys have in your mind's eye that you're going to be working towards and releasing. I imagine there would be something else that you're going to want to put out there in tandem with what you're releasing on December 4th to ensure that there is something else that's also backing it. So what might that be?
So what I would say is that we do have things coming after the perpetual exchange, right? It's not going to be like December 4th where it's the same exact launch. Purely because, it's from a marketing standpoint, you can only do so much in such a small time frame. And if we want to push out one thing, it takes time. But what I will say is that, we of course have this new lottery system, and I know I've talked about that we're coming out with. These NFTs that will be exciting, and that these NFTs will evolve into other things, and there'll be a gamification element of these NFTs, and that'll open doors to other utilities on the platform that will have benefits that I feel like I keep going farther here.
Mike, this is where I'm going to mute Summit and bring you in as the technical guy, right? So talk to me about the exciting stuff. What's he talking about? Tell me.
Some stuff that maybe I don't even know. No.
There's yeah. What I will say is this. I'm gonna stop Mike. I'm gonna put Mike to the side. Don't put my poor Mike on the hot seat like this, Mad Hatter. All right, come on now. Okay. There will be more uses out of these NFTs that will not just be a pretty picture. They'll be entire utility based, and we're looking to partner with potentially some game creation type of stuff that will benefit out of it.
Okay. Now, there's going to be people that are going to be incredibly excited by that, and I did hear in the fireside chat a little bit about these NFTs. What assurances, I suppose, do they have that as you guys get the really big stuff out of the way, which is what you're releasing on December 4th, that these things can come out at a quicker pace and not be sidelined for a lengthy period of time? Are you going to expand the team, for example? Managing it with a team of a small size is inevitably difficult. As you guys now are sitting on this war chest, as it's getting close to the next phase of what you're doing, are you expanding? Are you going to be dishing out responsibilities to more people so that it can streamline things a bit better?
It's funny you bring that up because it was actually something I was talking about earlier and internally. And yes, as you are getting into things bigger like this, you definitely need an expansion. No doubt. No questions to it. So from a developer standpoint, yes, we are looking to bring on more developers, but we have to be careful who we bring on with developers. I don't know if you recall ever the Titano play hack that happened, almost 2 years ago, right? And we brought on a developer who we thought was somebody who held the same passion and excitement for what we were building here, and they put a backdoor in the code, and I will be the first to admit that's partially on us as well, right? We should have double checked certain things, but some of these people are really good, and some of these people, hide it under something that makes sense and is useful, and you don't catch it until it's too late. And I mean, I'm happy to say that the team made made everybody whole at the end after that situation. You know, nothing token wise was compromised. It was a utility that was compromised. And everybody was kind of, you know, reimbursed out of that. Nobody lost anything. We took that money out of the treasury. But when we look for developers, we're really looking for people who are passionate in this space and people who are okay with kind of being, you know, earning trust and moving their way up within the project, right? You can't just give everybody keys to the kingdom. You got to take them through the reins and make sure that they're legitimate and what they're building out is good. And so developers in particular, yes, we are actively looking for more. We, of course, have our current team that will stay our team, and we're looking to add more to help develop in different areas. We're also looking to expand on a marketing element and bringing in more people with marketing backgrounds just to kind of start broadcasting some things out. Really, you know, centralize exchange, the heart of everything, you know, and
Right.
kind of turn us into a more, I don't want to use businessy term, you know, because at the end of the day, business can suck, right? So I mean, you want to have that heart, and that community, and that passion still there, but make us more professional, you know, make us more approachable, things like that. So you know, that's a lot easier from a trust standpoint to hire, but from an effectiveness standpoint, it can be a lot harder because you don't know where these people are, you know, primarily reaching out to on a marketing, you know, standing, how they communicate with people, things like that. So I would say we're always actively looking, but as a team, we're always very cautious. In this space, everybody is very anon. You know, nobody really has their KYC'd or anything like this. And I know we've talked about KYC in the past, you know, and kind of the pros and the cons of things that can happen with that. So it's hard to trust when you're, you know, bringing these people into the project. Are they going to follow through? Are they going to develop what we need? Are they going to put any back doors? Are they worth the money for marketing these things? So yeah, I mean, I was talking with the guys, definitely more developers, definitely more into the marketing side of things. We're also looking at bringing back some moderators as well, because we're seeing that community grow and bringing in some more moderation team on here, so that way Mike can take a break from typing every so often, because I always see him in there, and I love Mike. I love you, brother, but I want you to take some time to yourself too, man.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah,
I mean, you
I
know me.
sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, you know me. I'm at the computer doing my day thing anyway, so I'm happy to be there. And I think we're gonna have a lot more you know, PDEX related stuff coming soon here too to put more time to. So happy
Yeah.
to see those guys come back with that too.
Yeah, and just to
Yeah,
add like another element real quick, sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to
don't
say,
worry.
you know,
Your floor, go for it.
we're really looking to kind of create a dedicated team towards the Perpetual exchange as well. Teams who are, or kind of like Mike, who have strong expertise in the Perpetual fields, right? You know, in that type of trading market, and just kind of a dedicated, you know, potentially support team to the Perpetual exchange as a whole. Because although as a project, as a moderation, things like that, you know, it's great to have moderators and have that whole team mindset on things, but like you said, things need to be delegated, you know, and a Perpetual exchange is no small feat. There's a lot that's going on. There's a lot that people have questions on. So we're of course looking to expand like a team dedicated to answering those questions, and that kind of support, along with our, you know, team that handles our just standard community chats and things like that.
Right. I was going to say it's you know, you guys are obviously very well regarded and are clearly the driving force, and you know, you've had teammates that have come in previous that have also been driving forces. Two of which we have a lot of love for here at the Pillars, and we know well in the one and only David and Johnnyverse. I can't speak highly enough of them and my interactions with them, and just, you know, being able to speak with them about, you know, and pick their minds, etc. And I'm sure you guys still have access to that, which is also fantastic.
Yeah.
So that if you have any thoughts that you need to throw by them, you can. But a roadmap, I'm guessing, is something that your community would love to see, specifically around marketing, because I think one of the biggest things that you guys are going to have to do now is really market this in a particular way, in a particular route, especially now that you've got your December 4th cemented down. Hopefully that's going to be the last date that we hear about it, and really dialing into how you get the narrative out there. And I look forward to maybe speaking to you again somewhere down the line and having you say, actually, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be releasing these emails. That's going to be happening in a week's time. In 2 weeks' time, we're going to be hitting whatever it might be that you're hitting in terms of marketing. In 3 weeks' time, we're going to have someone doing a ton of AMA rounds, just because it's a voice that's going to get out there and it's going to be talking about what it is that we should be getting excited about.
Yeah.
I think, go on.
Oh no, I was gonna say, first off, just to shout out really quickly, both John and David are two of the most phenomenal people I've ever had the opportunity to work with, and still continue to this day call my friends. Phenomenal guys, absolutely beyond happy that they get to. I hate that they're here with you instead of me. No kidding. But no, I just, and anybody listening in, they are just two of the brightest guys, nicest guys I've ever had the pleasure of working with, and calling friends throughout everything. So I do want to shout them out, because they are a huge factor of how Swych and just Titano, right, got where it is today. And so taking the jump in after them is, it's big shoes to fill, very, very big shoes to fill, and I'm a size, 6 over here, and they got a size 13. So I'm still growing,
Well, I don't know. You're doing very well on the talking front. You're doing very well, and you've been very diplomatic throughout all of this, and particularly tight-lipped. I'm still going to try and drag a little bit out of you shortly.
Oh, I know you will,
yeah,
but remember,
you've done
like
very
blood, stone bleeding here. I
Blood
heard
from the
that saying
stone.
before we started.
Right.
But
Mike,
but
tell
to
us
get
about.
back,
Sorry. Yeah, go on.
Oh, go
Okay.
on, go on.
I'll let you. No. I'll let you finish your
Please.
thought. It's your thought.
Give Mike.
No, please.
Let Mike go.
Mike, I was going to ask you. What is it people should be excited about on December 4th? Let's go through the particulars. What is it going to mean for them? What is it going to mean for their token? What is it going to mean for staking and earning this real yield that is being spoken about?
Yeah, absolutely. The possibilities are, one of the most exciting things. I've had the benefits of using perpetual exchanges for a couple of years now, not only as an investor, but trading on them as well. I've got a traditional finance background that I've done for many years, but a few years ago I moved part of my time in trading into crypto. And what what I've seen in perpetual exchanges over the last few years, and how much that space, that sector of crypto has started to blow up. I don't see it stopping. I think, in my personal opinion, this is one of those sectors that is going to see a massive amount of expansion over the coming years. And whether there's 5, 10, or 20 perpetual exchanges that are in the space, I think there's going to be a ton of room for all of them to succeed, for the project standpoint, the investor standpoint, the trader standpoint. So I think when we roll out the perpetual exchange on December 4th, from an investor standpoint, one of the biggest things that we're most excited about is to be able to pay out those real yields to investors. To this point, Swych has had value through one's holdings and the token price. That's pretty much what they've had. Titano had some utilities and stuff, but this is a shift into something different. So you're not only going to carry value through your token holdings, but you're also going to be earning real yields on top of those as well. So you're going to have two forms of one form of value, but another form of income from that. And then from a trading standpoint, there's a lot of pros that you can look at to trading on a decentralized perpetual exchange versus a centralized exchange or something like that. The tokens are yours, right? When you're putting a trade on, the funds, your funds are yours. They're in your wallet. They're in your MetaMask, your Trust wallet, whatever it is. And then the only time they leave your wallet is to put the trade on. When the trade's closed, they're back in your wallet. When you're putting them on a centralized exchange, you're putting them into somebody else's wallet that you don't control. So I think this decentralized aspect, right now, I think we're getting into it at a great time, because I think the decentralized leverage space is going to grow significantly more. I think the decentralized will. And from an investor or trader standpoint, it's an early time, and I think the market for it is going to be so.
You're not the
early.
first person I've heard say that, to be fair. You're not the first person who's thrown that argument out. Now, let me ask you a question. There's a lot of people, and I believe you've said this yourself, is in terms of price, not to worry, because that's not where you're going to derive the value if you want to hold on to this. We're talking about real yield. There is, however, still this position that you guys need to play in order to make sure that the price is at a reasonable point, so that people don't start to lose faith in the project and therefore stop using everything else that you want them to use for that real yield. So,
Yeah, there's
and to
always
generate that real yield, right?
there's value from the token price is always going to be something that is important, right? Shouldn't say that it's not important. It's something that is important. However, when you're investing in a perpetual exchange, I like to look at it as like, I mentioned this earlier in chat, I think, is if you're investing in something like Verizon, for example, or
Mhm.
T-Mobile or AT&T, right? If you're investing in that and you plan on holding it for 10, 20, 30 years, you're investing in it likely for the dividends that they're paying out every quarter, right? They've got some of the highest dividends that you can get. And when you're looking at it for those dividend payouts as passive income, you're not so much focused on the day to day or even month to month price swings, because unless you plan on selling it and rolling it into something else or whatever it may be, any ups or downs, whether it's gains or losses, it's all unrealized. Now it is going to matter when you go to sell, and I do agree with you. It matters from a an outside looking in point of view, or
Mhm.
even for investors currently. Um, but I think that once we start putting out some of those real yields, you're going to start seeing, and especially if we can generate some nice revenue as the months go on and put out some nice APRs and things like that, you're going to see people come in, even if there's people who do want to sell, that's their right. I think you're going to end up seeing people be attracted to those APRs. And since APRs are partially tied to token price, as the token price were to go down, you're going to see APRs go up percentages. So I think there's going to end up being a balance, as it kind of has worked on every other perpetual exchange, where you got high APRs from real yields or low token price. They're going to end up coming together. So it'll take some time, obviously, being a new perpetual exchange. I think everybody needs to kind of understand that expectation. But like some had said earlier, we, and I think I can speak for myself and everybody else on the team. There's something special about the community and how long they've been here and everything that they've been through that really pushes ourselves to want to make it work for everybody. And December 4th is going to be the start of that, I think.
Right. Great. And yeah, your community is special. And I think what's again to say to the devs that sit behind all of this is now start to deliver. I think that's the most important thing. I really want to be able to speak to you guys and have that absolute utmost certainty in your voices and have you really screaming from the rooftops, look, we told you so, we proved you wrong. I mean, give me no end of pleasure to hear that, because ultimately we want everybody to succeed in this space, right? And if you guys can do that, then fantastic. And what a story it will be in terms of where you were and the trials and tribulations that you have been through to then to get to that success point. I just hope that the people that are sitting behind this hear that loud and clear enough that they really start showing how much they appreciate the community with action, I think. Do
And
we
I think when
have,
you,
oh, gone. Sorry,
sorry, I was just going to say, I think when you said earlier
please do.
about how there are, it's no secret that there's some holders that have been around for a while that have been maybe just holding on and hoping that something's going to happen. That's no
Mhm.
secret. I think that aspect is also what helps drive us even further and harder at it, is because whether you're a new investor or a month old investor or 2 years that you haven't sold anything, it's we know there's a lot of people that we want to see happy. We want to see them succeed. We want to bring the value to them. And I think it'd be an amazing story to be able to come back and do.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And they deserve it. Anybody that's given that much time and effort and thought and their money to something is they deserve, if they've waited 2 years plus for a resolution and an outcome, they deserve absolutely to get a positive one. So yeah, I hope it can happen. Um, do you have a time frame that you guys are working towards for this ATB, where the sales aren't going to sting? I know you've already said something that you're going to be looking at the figures and seeing how much is coming in and juggling around with what is and isn't feasible, but do you have a ballpark idea as to how far you don't want to get before it's fully unlocked for people?
Yeah, I think when we look at everything and moving, transitioning into phase two, cutting everything, right? No more inflation, no more ATB, no nothing. Really starting to push the real yield out to everybody at that point. It really, like I said before, it depends on how much we see in accrued fees to start, and then going from there. I would say we are not looking anything longer than 60 days. And I say that because there's been internal discussions that we've had regarding what would happen if it took, if we're at a 45-day mark and we're just not happy with the numbers that get there. And I'm happy to expand upon that as well. But we're definitely looking no longer than that. However, if we're seeing, the first week and we're seeing great fees, okay, starting to come in, and we're like, wow, we can offer people 30, 40, 50% real yield, or even 10, 20%, right? 10 or 20% in this space is phenomenal, right? Then yeah, gates are open, we're good to go. I think it's a lot easier when you can say, hey, you can either sell all your tokens and lose your ATB, or you can get 40% real yield, versus, hey, you can, sell all of your tokens and get 3% real yield. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's
Right.
it's that, I don't want to say a mental game playing with it, but it is making sure that all your pieces are on the board, and that you can have somebody say, I want to stay with this project. Now, there are going to be people, no matter what percentage rate that you offer them, are going to say, I'm done. I'm out. I don't want to be here. I want to take money out, whatever it may be, right? And they're going to leave. And that is entirely their choice, right? I'm never going to dish anybody for something like that.
Right.
But for the vast majority of people who are, so used to making, an auto rebasing or a staking on these super high APYs, they would be much more inclined to stick with, okay, I'm going to keep my tokens, I'm going to stay invested in Swych, if they see a sizable return that keeps them in the ecosystem, So it could be, hey, if we're seeing really great results, it's going to be at least a week, until we see something like that. Because we calculate those based off of a week. At the very, very most, I would say 60 days, and at the 45-day mark, we would have a discussion. And that's where we would talk about just moving into phase two, but injecting money into the liquidity pool and doing kind of a manual buyback burn just to pump up the price, so that people can get the tokens out, get that money back out, while we still continue to work on things, still continue to bring things to fruition, but know that if we have to spend money to make our community happy, that's 100% what we're going to do.
Has the community given feedback on where they want to see that money spent? Do they favor the buyback and burns? Do they favor heavy marketing? What is it that they favor in particular?
I think a lot of the community definitely wants marketing. There's no doubt about it. And that's, I think, it's really reassuring and great to see that, though, right? It's not, we want buyback burns, because whenever I hear we want buyback burns, what I hear is, I want a price spike so I can get some money out. And I think a lot of people think of buyback burns in a similar area like that. But I definitely hear a lot of marketing. Now, other things people bring up a lot is liquidity, okay? And I think where we are right now with a shallow liquidity pool, it's something where we don't want to dump a ton in liquidity and then take off the ATB. We would rather, tier the liquidity, do some buybacks, put some more in liquidity, do some more buybacks, put some more in liquidity, do some more buybacks. So that way, if you're talking from, a finance standpoint, okay, you're not spending as much money to keep the price where it is, or to bump the price up thanks to the shallower liquidity pool, and then you put the liquidity in after that. Mike, I know you have the math on that type of stuff, but I'd love to hear kind of your overall thoughts on that as well, because you're in the community just as much as me.
Yeah, please share.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you talked about it earlier. We've got around $10 million or so in total assets. That does need to go some places. Majority of it is going to need to be, perpetual exchange liquidity. We need to have liquidity on there for traders to be able to trade with leverage, because ultimately that is what is driving the revenue from it, and that's ultimately what's going to be not only bringing revenue to, or real yields to investors, but it's also going to be bringing money in for additional liquidity on the Swych tokens liquidity pool, and and many other things, right? It can be used for. So while we need to, certainly set aside money for the liquidity for that, like Summit said, there's other things that it can go to, and buyback and burns have always been one of those things for years now that everybody just loved, right? However, we all know that the effectiveness of them is usually just often met with, liquidity that's put in being taken right back out. So there's different ways to go about it, and I think, like Summit said, one of the better ways to do that is to be able to provide liquidity, um, for people who do want to exit, because it is every person's right to have their own plan, no matter what it is, whether it's to stay or go, or hang on to some, or not keep some, whatever it may be. We want to be able to make sure that there's liquidity for people to do that, but we also want to protect those who want to stay and not be able to just take all the liquidity that we put in. It's we could easily just throw $1 million in there in a buyback or something, but that's
Right.
not necessarily the best thing for everybody that's going to be part of Swych, because if that $1 million could also be used for liquidity, which can create a lifetime of reoccurring revenue, right? That money can be rolled over and over and over throughout trades. So there's a smart way to go about it, and I don't know if there's say a fail-proof way, but to make everything perfect. But we can do our best to try to make sure that we have liquidity for people to leave, got liquidity for people who want to be there, and ways that we can help keep the token price up, get some real yield generation, and at the end of the day,
Right.
grow all of that over time.
And in terms of these PDEXs that you guys might be using, which one do you favor? Which one have you guys looked at closely? Is there one that's been the main inspiration behind what it is that you're going to be releasing in 2 weeks?
Oh, I like the pause that we both had.
I I didn't know if you want to take that or not, but I think that we've kind of studied them all.
Yeah.
I don't really. Yeah, I think there's certain ones that we kind of looked at more than others, as far as when it was to be developed and whatnot, and maybe we've even found some stuff that, security wise, some of them had vulnerabilities, that
Yeah.
we fixed for our
Right.
perpetual exchange.
I'm happy to talk
Um,
about that because I think there was a level of inspiration, right? As you could say, when we looked at the likes of Level, for example, and using some of their contracts, which a lot actually had to be rewritten. And not only that, but there were bugs in even their contract code that we had to get resolved. And so it's kind of its own thing now. But a lot of inspiration came from there. But we also took ideas from other perpetual exchanges, and I think that's when you look at making the next best thing, right? You go for taking a little bit of the best of everything that at the time. Whether it be, is it the layout of this? Is it the way that it interacts on that? Is it the fee structure over here? And you smash it all together to make the best Frankenstein that you can make. And
Right.
and it's, when we looked at a lot of these perpetual exchanges, we tried to grab a little bit from here and there. One thing that we're really happy to bring on their perpetual exchange is a paper trading platform. And it's not just, something where it walks you through or it's easier. It's a one-to-one copy of the exact same perpetual exchange. So that way, somebody who is new to this platform, or new to just, advanced trading in general, doesn't have to, lose a bunch of money to figure out how it works. More importantly, okay, when you're talking like paper trading just in general, okay, a lot of those platforms make it easier, right? They'll make it like, oh yeah, sure, you did good on this one, you got money, and then you go do the real thing in the exact same trade and you lost a lot more, or you got a lot less. And so, when we decided to make a paper trading platform, we're like, hey, let's make it a one-to-one copy. It's exactly the same, and that's a huge marketing standpoint right there. It is the exact same. And so that's something that we're going to be marketing out heavily just in general. Other inspiration-wise is we like some of the layouts of these perpetual exchanges as compared to others. I feel some of them are very difficult to use or very convoluted. It's like it's just, I feel like I have to click through 30 prompts in order to get to one thing. And
Right.
is somebody who is already not that great at trading. I'm going to be the first to admit it. Okay. The fact that I have to click 15 things just to figure out how to get to the main menu of this perpetual exchange is mind-boggling to me. And so, you know, you want to make it as simple as possible, you know, easy to use. I always use the example like the iPhone, right? It was so simple because it was a single screen. You click the phone icon, it goes into the phone. And that's how it became as big as it was. And that's the same type of concept, is make it as simple as possible. Make it as easy to use as you possibly can with as little things that you would need to do. And that's what people will come for. Not because it has 600
the path
features.
of least
you know?
resistance is going to be the most important thing, right?
Exactly.
Ease of use. When are we going to get to see a teaser on this? When are we going to get a glimpse of perhaps some images? Do you guys have anything to share now?
Oh, you can go check it out right now, Mad Hatter. You can check out the paper trading platform this very second.
Throw those links in. Now, in terms of alpha, I'm aware that I've had you now for almost an hour and a half, so I'm going to start to wind down a little bit. In terms of something juicy, I know there's something on the tip of your tongue that you kind of want to say, but don't want to, but do. You know, I think it's fair to everyone here if you guys commit and just give us that juicy bit of information.
Oh gosh. Oh man, I just have to run to the bathroom. I'm gonna let Mike handle it from here.
Yeah, I don't know what
Give
happened.
us,
But the mic
give
muted
it,
itself.
but you know, as we're building up to December 4th, the point being is this is one of the steps in your marketing. This is one of the things that you want to do in getting information out there, and people want to get excited about something. You know, we've had the serious conversations, the serious part of the chat. There's the doom and gloom, if you will, of the trials and tribulations, the ups and downs. You're saying that we're starting to move towards a deflationary token now. It's going to be able to earn real yield. And very soon after that, you'll move away from what effectively is, you know, somewhat of a Ponzi-nomic system whereby you're taxing people to put back into the system. You're going to remove that entirely. These are all things that people want to get excited about. So there's got to be something else that you can give us that they can really get behind and go wild for over the next few days.
Oh gosh, man, you got to do this to me every time, don't you?
Absolutely. Hit me with it.
You know, I will talk about something that I've glanced over a little bit in the fireside chat. And I'll go a little bit more in depth on it, but I can't, there's not a ton I can share overall. But I'll make you this deal. If I have something alpha related coming up in the next week, I'll share it with you here first.
Okay, perfect.
What I can talk about is something I think a lot of people were asking about, and it was kind of like that long-term holder benefit type of stuff. You know, people who have been here for a while. And it's what we call the high stakes NFT. And what it is it's going to open up more possibilities, more rewards for people who have been here with Swych. And I guess you could say in, you know, Titano as well, because we're one and the same at this point, right? And it will hold a lot more benefits. So you'll get a higher reward out of it. It will be, you know, a burning element that comes out of it, things like that. And it's kind of just something as a thank you, but also an addition to the ecosystem. There's a few things that I have alpha-wise that I don't think I can talk about yet. But like I said, I will, you know, I'm cutting my hand right now. It's got a little bit of blood on it. If you want to make the handshake, we can. And I will give you a deal. I will give you alpha first when I can give you the alpha.
Okay, perfect. Well, all right, deal. You heard it here first, folks. We'll be getting that juicy alpha. Handshake is in the chat. Gentlemen,
yeah, I can't even put it in my own announcement channel. I got to come over here first.
I understand. I look forward to you guys slow drip feeding this to the communities. I think the community really wants to sit and read some of this, and I think it's time that they started to get this information through. I'm going to be interested. You know, you mentioned YouTubers, whom you're going to be using, when you're going to be using them. I mean, it shouldn't be forgotten that, you know, one of the main reasons you guys are as big as you are is because of an influencer, somebody that was sitting on YouTube. So, you know, those avenues can be very lucrative. They can be very fruitful. You know, for me, it's going to be interesting to really hear a shift in your narratives as I listen to more AMAs as they come out, and really hear you guys being able to confidently say this is not just happening, but now we're really excited to show you this real yield. I think that's where the space overall is headed in, and the demands are from community members now. It has to be real yield. If it isn't real yield, we're not going to
It ain't real.
want to necessarily exactly that. I think people are getting smarter, and I think
Yep.
it's important that teams and projects move with it. Is there anything I haven't asked?
I just
that
want
you
to
want
piggyback
to,
on that real quick about the
Please
real
do.
yields too. You
Yeah.
know, there's a lot of different methods to generate real yields that are starting to hit the markets. But you know, to this date, and I think it's going to continue this way, one of the most lucrative things is the perpetual exchanges. You know, if you just look at some of the other ones that are out there and the revenue, the volume that they're generating daily, just, you know, up until a couple weeks ago, we had some pretty light volatility in the market, right? There wasn't much going on. And just, you know, from a day or two of little spikes here and there, the perpetual exchange volumes went just, you know, they went through the roof. And just that little bit of volatility up or down, you know, can create you know, a lot of revenue for the project and the investors. So this type of real yield is what I think many people are going to be excited about for years to come.
Do you
It'll
have
be
an
that.
idea of how much money you guys are aiming for first 6 months in terms of running through the perpetual exchange?
I don't think we necessarily have a amount of money that we're I think we're looking more towards what we want to. I mean, let me restart. When we're thinking of money, we're looking at more on the lines of how much can we provide our investors. It's not really just accrued fees. We're looking at what percentage of real yield are we looking to provide all of our investors. That's really how we're looking at it. And you know, we're really aiming to give people 20 to 40%. That's our goal. And that's something where we're looking at probably around, you know, 10 plus thousand a week, if not more, at current like staking level, things like that. So, I mean, it's going to take a lot of money to really get to those percentages. And I think we're aiming to start off at 10 to 20% in real yield, and then aiming to get into that 20 to 40% range. Mike, I know you did the quick math on this. How much was it in fees? I recall it. I just can't remember the exact numbers.
I don't have it off the top of my head. It's somewhere back in our discussions, but you know, it's perpetual exchanges operate on liquidity, right? And it's going to take time for us to grow our liquidity, so traders can trade that. But you know, even with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 million, whatever it may be, right? That liquidity gets cycled, and when that liquidity is cycled in a 4-hour period, if it's cycled 2 or 3 times, you could end up with 10, 15, $20 million in volume to generate fees. But yeah, like Summit said, close to, you know, if we want to generate those APRs at the current staked supply and the current token price, stuff like that, we're talking, you know, roughly around, you know, maybe 2 to 3,000 a day or so in real yields or earn fees generated. So
Right. Okay.
it's really not a lot compared to what the, you know, what you can't bring it to. You know, there's some of them out there doing anywhere from 50 to 200 million in volume a day on average. So, and
I
that's, you
think
know, like Summit.
go on, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like Summit said, I don't think we necessarily have a goal that we want to reach as far as that's concerned in 6 months. You know, we do have goals we want to put out to investors, but ultimately the goal is to grow that liquidity and to be able to provide, you know, even more and just slowly build that snowball as it's rolling down the hill to get bigger.
Right. Well, I think the sense that I'm getting, you guys can't say it, but I can, because I don't work for Swych or have any involvement with them. I'm looking forward to hearing you guys speak without any form of shackles to not be able to say certain things. I think that's going to be a very interesting tipping point for you guys. Once you're able to fully stand behind what it is that you're saying, and you're able to release as much information as you need to and give everybody all of the juicy bits of alpha as it will be, I think that's when things are going to be really exciting. I think that will just wipe out a ton of uncertainty for a lot of different people. And I know you have a wonderfully committed and energetic community, and I really commend that. I think that's fantastic. I think that community just really needs now for the team behind you guys to support you guys, so that when you are stepping onto the stage, speaking to communities like this and every other community and influencer that you're going to speak to, that you can do so not only with absolute conviction, but fully armed with all the tools necessary to bat off any question without having to quickly think on the spot what you can and can't say. So I really hope those guys really, they take the reins off and let you guys run with it very, very soon. I look forward to that day.
You'll get the shackles off soon.
I look forward to it. Okay, gentlemen, if there's nothing else that I should have raised, you wish I had, I think that's where we can call it at this point. Unless there is anything else that you guys want to say that I haven't mentioned.
No, I mean, I guess if anything, I really just want to thank you and your community. And thank, of course, our community for coming here and joining us as well. It's a continuing journey, right, for all of this. And so I always say I appreciate the time, the patience, the energy that goes into everybody here. And Mad Hatter, I appreciate you dealing with my every so often terrible jokes. And you didn't ask me about coffee or airplanes, so thank you on that one. That's an inside joke. If you know.
If you were going to have to fly and get your favorite coffee, who would you fly with?
Oh no, that's it. I can't do it anymore. It's too much.
You realize you messed up as soon as you started saying that, huh, Summit?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's been a real pleasure, and I'm glad so many people turned out. I hope the guys that have come over from your community hang around, stick around, and learn a bit about us, especially as there might be some alpha that you guys drop in. And perhaps we can arrange a follow-up to this conversation at some point once you guys are fully launched and see how everything's going.
I would love that. Let's get that going. Let's do that for sure.
Great. Okay, I'll leave the final words down to you guys. Just if you want to give one last kind of overview of what it is that they can get excited for on December 4th, and then we'll call it a day. And thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, so guys, December 4th, very excited. We're coming out with the Perpetual Exchange. For those of you who haven't already, please take a look. Head on over our Discord, any questions, things like that. But for all of our members in here, our new people, thank you all so much for your patience, your love, your support, your faith as we continue to build things out. Mad Hatter, thank you so much. Appreciate you. You're always a pleasure to talk with. David, I know you're sitting in the background there and you won't come up here, but I always appreciate you and I always love talking to you, brother. That is what I have. Mike, yours.
Yeah, you said it best. That everybody with the pillars, the community of the pillars, community of Swych, all the investors, everybody. Glad we could do this. Happy to do this. And, Mad Hatter, David, you guys are great. Always look forward to, again, my first time being with you guys, but always will look forward to doing more. So,
thank you very much, gentlemen. You have a very good rest of your day. Take care.
You as well. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Cool.